I think your profile on X states it's time to build. It feels like 2025 is a good year to build. So I wanted to ask your advice, and maybe for advice for anybody who's trying to build, so who's trying to build something useful in the world. Maybe launch a startup, or maybe just launch apps, services, whatever, ship software products. So maybe by way of advice, how do you actually get to shipping?
So, I mean, a big part of the answer, I think, is we're in the middle of a legit revolution. And I know you've been talking about this on your show, but like AI coding, I mean, this is the biggest earthquake to hit software in certainly my life, maybe since the invention of software. And I'm sure, we're involved in various of these companies, but, these tools, from a variety of companies are just like absolutely revolutionary. And they're getting better at leaps and bounds right every day. And you know all this, but like the thing with coding, like there's like open questions of whether AI can get better at like, I don't know, understanding philosophy or whatever, creative writing or whatever. But like for sure, we can make it much better at coding, right? Because you can validate the results of coding. And so, there's all these methods of, synthetic data and self-training and reinforcement learning that for sure you can do with coding. And so everybody I know who works in the field says AI coding is going to get to be phenomenally good. And it's already great. And you can, anybody wants to see this, just go on YouTube and look at AI coding demos, little kids making apps in 10 minutes working with an AI coding system. And so I think it's the golden age. I think this is an area where it's clearly the golden age. The tool set is extraordinary. In a day, as a coder, for sure, in a day, you can retrain yourself, start using these things, get a huge boost in productivity. As a non-coder, you can learn much more quickly than you could before.
That's actually a tricky one in terms of learning as a non-coder to build stuff. I feel like you still need to learn how to code. It becomes a superpower. It helps you be much more productive. Like you could legitimately be a one-person company and get quite far.
I agree with that up to a point. So I think for sure for quite a long time, the people who are good at coding are going to be the best at actually having AIs code things because they're going to understand very basic. They're going to understand what's happening. Right. And they're going to be able to evaluate the work, and they're going to be able to, literally like manage AIs better. Like even if they're not literally handwriting the code, they're just going to have a much better sense of what's going on. So I definitely think like 100%, my 9-year-old is like doing all kinds of coding classes, and he'll keep doing that for certainly through 18. We'll see after that. And so like for sure that's the case. But look, having said that, one of the things you can do with an AI is say, teach me how to code. Right. And so, there's a whole bunch of, I'll name names, Khan Academy, like there's a whole bunch of work that they're doing at Khan Academy for free. And then we have this company Replit, which was originally specifically built for kids for coding, that has AI built in. That's just absolutely extraordinary now. And then, there's a variety of other systems like this. The AI is going to be able to teach you to code. The AI, by the way, is, as you know, spectacularly good at explaining code. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, the tools have these features now where you can talk to the code base. And so you can like literally like ask the code base questions about itself. And you can also just do the simple form, which is you can copy and paste code into ChatGPT and just ask it to explain it, what's going on, rewrite it, improve it, make recommendations. And so there's dozens of ways to do this. By the way, you can also, even more broadly than code, like, okay, you want to make a video game. Okay, now you can do AI art generation, sound generation, dialogue generation, voice generation, right? And so all of a sudden, like you don't need designers, you don't need, voice actors, so there's just like unlimited. And then, a big part of coding is so-called glue, it's interfacing into other systems. So it's interfacing into, Stripe to take payments or something like that. And, AI is fantastic at writing glue code. So, really, really good at making sure that you can plug everything together, really good at helping you figure out how to deploy. It'll even write a business plan for you. So it's just this, it's like everything happening with AI right now. It's like this latent superpower. And there's this incredible spectrum of people who have really figured out massive performance increases, productivity increases with it already. There's other people who aren't even aware it's happening. And there's some gearing to whether you're a coder or not, but I think there are lots of non-coders that are off to the races. And I think there are lots of professional coders who are still like, the blacksmiths were not necessarily in favor of, the car business. There's the old William Gibson quote, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed yet. And this is maybe the most potent version of that I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's the old meme with the bell curve. The people on both extremes say AI coding is the future.
Right.
It's very common the programmers to say, if you're any good of a programmer, you're not going to be using it. That's just not true. I consider myself a reasonably good programmer, and my productivity has been just skyrocketed, and the joy of programming skyrocketed. Is every aspect of programming is more efficient, more productive, more fun, all that kind of stuff.
I would also say code has of anything in like industrial society, code has the highest elasticity, which is to say the easier it is to make it, the more the more of it gets made. Like, I think effectively there's unlimited demand for code. Like, in other words, like there's always some other idea for a thing that you can do, a feature that you can add, or a thing that you can optimize. And so like overwhelmingly, the amount of code that exists in the world is a fraction of even the ideas we have today. And then we come up with new ideas all the time. And so I think that, like, I was in the late 80s, early 90s when sort of automated coding systems started to come out, expert systems, big deal in those days. And there was a famous book called The Decline and Fall of the American Programmer, that predicted that these new coding systems were going to mean we wouldn't have programmers in the future. And of course, the number of programming jobs exploded by like a factor of 100. Like, my guess is we'll have more coding jobs probably by like an order of magnitude 10 years from now. That will be different. There'll be different jobs. They'll involve orchestrating AI. We will be creating so much more software that the whole industry will just explode in size.
Are you seeing the size of companies decrease in terms of startups? What's the landscape of little tech?
All we're seeing right now is the AI hiring boom of all time.
For the big tech
people and little tech.
And little tech.
Everybody's trying to hire as many engineers as they can to build AI systems. It's just it's 100%. I mean, there's a handful of companies. There's a little bit. There's customer service. We have some companies and others. I think it's Klarna that's publicizing a lot of this in Europe, where there are jobs that can be optimized and jobs that can be automated. But like for engineering jobs, like it's just an explosion of hiring. That at least so far, there's no trace of any sort of diminishing effect. Now, having said that, I am looking forward to the day. I am waiting for the first company to walk in saying yes, like the more radical form of it. But so basically, the companies that we see are basically one of two kinds. We see the companies that are basically sometimes use weak form, strong form. So the weak form companies, I sometimes use the term, call it the sixth bullet point. AI is the sixth bullet point on whatever they're doing.
Sure.
Right. And it's on the slide, right? So they've got the, whatever, ... And then AI is the sixth thing. And the reason AI is the sixth thing is because they had already previously written the slide before the AI revolution started. And so they just added the sixth bullet point on the slide, which is how you're getting all these products that have like the AI button up in the corner, right? Uh-huh. The little sparkly button.
Yep.
Right. And all of a sudden Gmail is offering to summarize your email, which I'm like, I don't need that. Mm-hmm. Like I need you to answer my email, not summarize it. Like, what the hell? Okay. So we see those and that's fine. That's like, I don't know, putting sugar on the cake or something. But then we see the strong form, which is the companies that are building from scratch for AI, right? And they're building it. I actually just met with a company that is building literally an AI email system as an example. So just
nice. I can't wait.
Yeah, they're going to completely right. So the very obvious idea, very smart team. It's going to be great. And then Notion just another, not one of our companies, but just came out with a product. And so now companies are going to basically sweep through, and they're going to do basically AI first versions of basically everything. And those are like companies built, AI is the first bullet point. Mm-hmm. It's the strong form of the argument.
Yeah, Cursor is an example of that. They basically said, okay, we're going to rebuild the thing with AI as the first citizen.
What if we knew from scratch that we could build on this? And again, this is part of the Full Employment Act for startups and VCs is it just like if a technology transformation is sufficiently powerful, then you actually need to start the product development process over from scratch because you need to reconceptualize the product. And then usually what that means is you need a new company, because most incumbents just won't do that. And so that's underway across many categories. What I'm waiting for is the company where it's like, no, our org chart is redesigned as a result of AI, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm waiting for the company where it's like, no, we're going to have like, and the cliche, here's a thought experiment, right? The cliche would be we're going to have like the human executive team, and then we're going to have the AIs be the workers, right? So we'll have a VP of engineering supervising 100 instances of coding agents, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe. Right. By the way, or maybe the VP of engineering should be the AI, maybe supervising human coders who are supervising AIs, right? Because one of the things that AI should be pretty good at is managing, because it's like not, it's like a process driven. It's the kind of thing that AI is actually pretty good at, right? Performance evaluation coaching. And so should it be an AI executive team? And then of course the ultimate question, which is AI CEO, right? And then maybe the most futuristic version of it would be an actual AI agent that actually goes fully autonomous. Yeah. What if you really set one of these things loose and let it basically build itself a business? And so I will say, like, we're not yet seeing those, and I think there's a little bit of the systems aren't quite ready for that yet. And then I think it's a little bit of you really do need at that point like a founder who's really willing to break all the rules, and really willing to take the swing. And those people exist, and so I'm sure we'll see that.
And some of it is, as you know, with all the startups, this is the execution. The idea that you have a AI first email client. This seems like an obvious idea, but actually creating one, executing it, and then taking on Gmail is really difficult. I mean, Gmail, it's fascinating to see Google can't do it because why? Because of momentum, because it's hard to re-engineer the entirety of the system. It feels like Google's perfectly positioned to do it. Same with like you have Perplexity, which I love. Like Google could technically take on Perplexity and do it much better, but they haven't, not yet. So it's fascinating why that is for large companies. I mean, that is an advantage for little tech. They can be agile.
Yeah, that's right.
They can move fast.
Yeah. Little companies can break glass in a way big companies can't.
Right.
This is sort of the big breakthrough that Clay Christensen had in the Innovator's Dilemma, which is sometimes when big companies don't do things, it's because they're screwing up, and that certainly happens. But a lot of times they don't do things because it would break too much glass. It would interfere with their existing customers and their existing businesses, and they just simply won't do that. And by the way, responsibly, they shouldn't do that. Right. And so sure. They just get, this is Clay Christensen's big thing is they often don't adapt because they are well run, not because they're poorly run. But they're optimizing machines. They're optimizing against the existing business, and as you kind of just said, this is like a permanent state of affairs for large organizations. Like every once in a while, one breaks the pattern and actually does it, but for the most part, like this is a very predictable form of human behavior, and this fundamentally is why startups exist.